Thank you so much, Gail. That's great. We are running a tiny bit behind. What I'm going to suggest, if it's okay with everybody, is that we just swap the next two items because we've got Penny Rankin, the president of NCW Canada, waiting, having got up at an early hour to join us. So I think, if you don't mind, we'll go to Penny before we do the reaffirmation, because the reaffirmation really is just that, and I can read that quite quickly. So if I can just get back to my notes. Sorry about this, folks. Wait a moment. So, yes, so we're going to welcome Penny. Oh, lovely, you're there, Penny. Penny Rankin, who is president of NCW Canada, who is going to talk to us about two resolutions that were proposed by NCWGB and passed internationally earlier this year. Just to tell you a short bit about Penny, alongside being president of the NCW of Canada, Penny was also elected to the board of the International Council of Women this year. She's a self-described accidental activist. I think that we can probably, many of us, identify with that. And Penny began her eclectic career in the UK after completing her studies in early childhood education. She spent 2 years teaching in central London before a radical career shift into marketing and advertising. When she returned to Canada, Penny resumed her passion for teaching and became deeply involved in non-profit and community work. She helped establish Canadians for Action in 2020, an informal collective that brings together NGOs and professionals to advocate for child protection legislation online. And their campaign contributed to MasterCard and Visa suspending payment privileges for porn hubs. There may be quite a lot we can learn from that experience. And Penny also co-chairs the Sexual Exploitation Working Group of the Canadian Council of Churches and continues to champion measures supporting child protection, women's rights and community well-being. So Penny, we really are honoured to have you joining us today. So can I pass over to you to talk about the importance, as you see it, of these two resolutions? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jilly. I appreciate that. And the sun has come up. It's when I first started and joined you, it was quite dark here. Anyway, thank you to the National Council of Women of Great Britain for the invitation to join you today. It's my privilege to reflect on two critical resolutions, the ICW Climate Change Policy, seconded by the National Council of Women of Canada, and the ECICW Emergency Motion on online harms. Now, these resolutions are not just statements, they are calls to focus coordinated action. And this is indeed a time when international solidarity is needed more than ever. So let me begin with the climate change crisis that touches every country in profound ways. This year, for example, in Canada, we experienced the second worst wildfire season ever on record, with over 7 million hectares burned, which is almost the entire landmass of Scotland. In British Columbia in 2021, the town of Lytton saw temperatures reach 49.6 centigrade, higher than any temperature ever recorded that far north, and the whole town was destroyed by fire the very next day. Now, Canada's story is far from unique. In July 2022, England hit 40 degrees centigrade for the first time, and flooding and climate disruptions have become distressingly familiar across the UK and, of course, across Europe and the rest of the globe. But these events are not isolated. They are symptoms of what the UN Environment Programme has described as a triple planetary crisis, the intersecting emergencies of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. The latest global temperature records established just this past July confirm that we are rapidly approaching and may soon breach the critical 1.5 centigrade threshold set by the Paris Agreement. And the International Court of Justice has now confirmed that states not only have a moral duty, but a legal obligation to pursue ambitious climate action, including emission reductions consistent with the 1.5-degree goal. Vulnerable populations are feeling the effects first and most acutely, and women and girls, especially in developing regions, bear the brunt. They are vital to food and water security and community resilience, but their burden grows as climate shocks escalate. Recent UN data shows a 70% increase in heat-related deaths among those over 65 in just 2 decades. And the need for climate justice, support for those least responsible but most affected, has never been clearer. International governance gaps, entrenched consumption patterns, and lack of cooperation block progress. The ICW policy recognizes these realities, calling for urgent global action, stronger governance of energy and land use, sharing of innovations and best practices, and critically, resources and supports that target women and girls. In Canada, we are pressing for a climate plan that centers on clean energy, nature conservation, meaningful involvement of women, and bold action in line with the Paris commitments. The ICW's resolution's practical approach is vital. It asks national councils to lobby for strengthened national policies, report on local impacts and innovations, and work together in an ongoing exchange of strategies. And we see our role not only in pressing for urgent legislation funding, but also in aggregating the grassroots experiences of women, their solutions, their leadership, and their needs. I'm now going to turn to the second resolution. The second policy on today's agenda is equally urgent and equally global. The ECICW emergency motion on online harms proposed by the NCWCGB, sorry, it's so easy for me to say NCWC, and the Portuguese Platform for Women's Rights addresses the digital landscape that has become increasingly hostile for women, girls, and young people. Technological innovation has outpaced legal protection, and our societies have struggled to manage the damaging fallout. Online violence, as we've heard today, and exploitation are reaching new heights. UN Women reports that, depending on the country, 16 to 58% of women and girls have been targets of online violence, and I tend to think it's the higher numbers. In the UK and Canada alike, bullying, harassment, and abusive content are actively amplified by the algorithms and profit models of major platforms. Extreme online pornography, misogynistic influencers, and toxic beauty standards are now everyday hazards for young people, distorting relationships, undermining equality, and sometimes translating into real-world violence, and really presenting a mental health crisis. A recent Inter-Parliamentary Union study revealed that women parliamentarians are 27 times more likely to be harassed online than men, with 82% subjected to psychological violence and nearly half threatened with sexual or physical assault. Tech-facilitated gender-based abuse not only silences individual women, it undermines democracy and drives women and girls out of public spaces. And while women bear many of these risks, boys are not immune. Targeted by negative influencers, they too struggle with distorted ideas of masculinity, relationship breakdowns, and disciplinary issues in schools, again, as we heard earlier today. Our youngest generations know these dangers firsthand. Surveys by Girl Guiding UK and national consultations involving over 1 million children show unprecedented concern about negative online experiences. Girls' happiness levels are falling, and exposure to sexual harassment and unwanted content is on the rise. Other countries, like Australia, have responded with new age-based limits, barring children under 16 from social media access as part of a broader public health approach. These two resolutions show more than just a sense of urgency. They insist on practical, collaborative solutions. And the ICW climate policy asks councils to document local effects and best practices for mitigation and resilience. The EC-ICW motion calls for similar diligence. Record the impacts, gather and share proven interventions, and push for laws that make our online spaces safe. What is illegal offline must be illegal online. In fact, I just literally was presenting to the Senate here in Canada 2 days ago on this very issue. Both call for stronger, legislative frameworks, whether for greenhouse gas emissions or digital gender-based violence. In climate, this means national and international commitments based on the science and obligations set by courts and conventions. In the digital sphere, it means robust privacy laws, hate speech regulation, age verification for explicit content, and the refusal to let lawful but awful material go unchecked. As president of the National Council of Women of Canada, I am especially encouraged by the leadership shown by the National Council of Women of Great Britain, whose advocacy for the UK's online harms bill has helped set an international benchmark. Your example, and I really mean this sincerely, your example and the progress in the European Union and elsewhere reminds us that no single nation can win these fights alone. In Canada, we are deeply engaged with these debates, pressing our own government to move forward on clean energy, nature protection, renewable energy, digital safety laws, and supports for women and children at the intersection of climate and online harms. We are also committed to contributing evidence, learning from others, and sharing grassroots innovations. The questions facing us are truly daunting, but so is our determination. The heat waves and wildfires raging from Kamloops to Kent, the toxic online environments our children now navigate, the existential warnings from global experts, these are calls that can't be sidelined. But together, with focus and purpose, we can make a difference. So let's use both resolutions on climate and on online harms, not just as policy, but as blueprints for action. Let's cooperate, advocate, and share our solutions. The future safety, happiness, and in fact, the dignity of all our communities depends on what we do together next. I thank you so very much for the opportunity to speak with you.
Penny, thank you so much from all of us here. I think what you've done beautifully is to show us that the two things. One, that the issues that we're talking about here in Great Britain have an influence across the world. And I think certainly from my point of view, when I was lucky enough to go to the International Council of Women meeting earlier this year, it really came home to me that these issues are ones that we all face and we can all tackle together. So thank you so much for bringing that so vividly to our attention and showing that these issues are ones that we can work on together and take forward. So thank you, Penny, very much. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your whole day in Canada.
Yes, it's Thanksgiving weekend for us, so it's a long weekend as well.
Oh, fabulous.
Anyway,
Oh, we're even more grateful to you for taking time out of your Thanksgiving weekend.
right then, take care, everybody.
Thank you
Enjoy
so
your
much.
lunch.
Thank you.
I'm going to have breakfast.
Oh, sorry, we just got one comment. Anne, were you wanting to make a comment? Just need a microphone. Sorry.
I just wanted to say that we are having a real influence in these two areas, because what we've done is we've led from the UK and sent these two resolutions, which have been passed unanimously by the European Committee of the International Council of Women and by the International Council of Women. And we consider it so important because our efforts in Britain to bring safety to our children and to improve the climate can be undermined by other countries. And with the international atmosphere at the moment, we really need our allies, and we all need to work together. And that's why we're working so strongly with Canada, with Portugal, and with the other women's organisations across the world. And we're looking really today to really fully involve you and get your support in what we're doing and for these resolutions. Although they've already been passed, you know, we want you to feel you own them. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Anne. Lovely, thank you. So we'll let you go and get your breakfast, Penny. Thank you again very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.